All right, let's call this meeting to order. Would you call the roll, please, ma'am?
Chairman Timaeus.
Here.
Board Member Beaver is absent. Board Member Hilliard.
Present.
Board Member Rowe.
Here.
Board Member Sorrell.
Here.
Alternate Board Member Lucas.
Here.
Alternate Board Member Jones.
Present.
Thank you.
All right. Let's look at approval of the minutes. Has everybody looked at the minutes? Ready to make a motion on that?
Move we approve the minutes.
Okay.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Show 4 approve and 1 abstain. Here's how we run, just for general information for you folks. We sit as a panel of 5. So we have 4 members present, and 1 alternate is going to vote on whatever the current situation is, up to a point where Mr. Rowe did a survey in one of these items, and Mr. Rowe's going to have to step back, and everybody from here down is going to vote on that one particular item. And so we kind of let Mr. Jones just flip for who goes first, or do you have a preference? Deferred. Okay, you're up for number 1. So if Mr. Rowe has not recused himself, you're the first run through. All right? So what we're going to do right now is we're going to try to handle all this at one time so that everybody because we've got a lot of stuff to do today. Anybody that wants to speak for or against, make any kind of a comment whatsoever to us today, please stand. Let's get everybody sworn in all at one time so that we don't have to do that individually as we go through the meeting. Now, if you'd raise your right hands, and we'll have our secretary swear you.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Y'all pull up a chair. Let's look at the first item of business. It is an information-only item. We don't get to vote on the code of ordinances. That's the city council, and these are passed through the city council from the Planning and Zoning Commission. But there is an amendment that's really just a word change because there was a typographical error. You can see where it says unnecessary handicap and what's being displayed, and that's going to be replaced with unnecessary hardship. And so everybody sees that, everybody understands that. Okay. And so that's the standard we're going to use, is unnecessary hardship, because that's the statutory standard, irrespective of the current situation in the ordinance. All right.
Chairman Timaeus,
Yes, ma'am.
if the chair has any recommendations or changes to that language, you do have to still make a recommendation to council to either adopt it as is, or if you have any discussion from the board as to how it should be amended or changed, that's something that you guys could also do.
Well, if anybody wants to make a recommendation to the Planning and Zoning Commission, you can make a motion for a resolution here, and we just throw it at them, but I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference. Or you can talk to them directly. Gentlemen, what's your pleasure? Or we're done. We can go on with number 2.
Fine with me. We're done. Yeah.
All right, we're done. Yeah. All right. Hearing no motion, we move to item number
It does need to have a motion from the board to adopt the language, since it is something before you. You don't, so when we send the resolution to council, it says that there was a recommendation from the board to approve the language.
But there's Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yes, sir, but it's before you as well. So it'll also go to them as a recommendation, and we'll say that both Planning and Zoning and Board of Adjustment.
Well,
I'll let Lainey,
For documentation purposes, so we'll say on today, Thursday, June 6th, the Board of Adjustment reviewed the change. Planning Commission in July reviewed the change, and then it would go before council for their consideration.
and basically it'll say that you recommended approval or you recommended a change. That's the language that'll appear in the staff report to council.
okay.
I'll make a motion.
All right.
I make a motion that we approve the recommended changes to the ordinance.
I'll second it.
Can we just vote, voice vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Okay, let's go on to the next item. We'll be voting individually from here out because we have other items that are specific that have to be voted on as a 4 out of 5. You need 4 out of 5 to win. if you're asking for a variance. So item number 2 is a request by La Quinta Green for reduction of a setback requirement of a side yard setback at 2830 San Antonio Street from 5 feet to 2 feet in order to construct an addition to the rear of an existing structure. If we can make our situation more efficient. Has everybody up here looked at all of these reports?
Yeah.
Then what I'm going to do is, as we go through these, I'm going to take the staff report and treat that as admitted for purposes of receiving the staff report so that we don't have to listen to that read to us. And then request that the staff member give us whatever other information may not be included in the written report, and then we'll go on from there. So for item number 2, I'm going to treat as admitted the written staff report and treat that as already being in evidence. And if you would, please give us a summarization of information that is in addition to what we've already seen in writing.
So, just for purpose of the record, you'll have to give like an abbreviated report, and you'll still need to do the for and against.
Okay. As Chairman Tamayo stated, Ms. Green's requesting a variance to the side yard setback, as stated, 5 feet to 2 feet. We did send out 21 property owner notices, received 0 in favor or 0 in opposition of the request. And
If you could show us the photographs and
Yes.
just give us an explanation of how this is situated on the property, we'd appreciate it.
so you'll see here, the hatched area is the new addition to the house. Just to clarify, the 1 foot offset you see there is indication of the water line, not the offset of that structure. You'll see we're requesting for the 2 feet to allow it in continuation of the existing residence. On the screen is the subject property. And the addition will be to the rear of the structure here.
Just extending that side wall back.
Yes, sir, through the existing line of the house.
Not been built yet.
No, sir.
Requesting a permit now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions of the staff? All right. As this situation works, the person who's applying bears the burden of proof, so we need to hear from the person who is speaking on behalf of La Quinta Green, or we need to hear from La Quinta Green. Come talk to us, ma'am. And if you would, when you start, everybody, just say your name, tell us what your relationship is to the property, and then just tell us whatever you want to, and we'll go from there.
And the address, please, also.
My name is LaQuinta Green. The address is 2830 San Antonio Street. It's my husband. He just bought the property, and it was the original 2-bedroom, so we just trying to add on an additional room to the back. And I don't think that it will affect anyone or the community because it sits to the back of the house, and it's not just far back, but we're just trying to get a variance to get approved to add on an additional room.
Okay. And we've seen the rest of the writing that you sent.
Yes, sir.
I'm a little confused by something that was written in your, Eric Green wrote to us. But that's okay. I don't need to have a whole lot of clarification on that. Is there any other question for this lady? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Is there anything else you want to talk to us about? Tell us.
No, nervous.
Okay. Pull up a chair and we'll have a discussion and vote.
Just sit back down?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, before I stop the evidence, is there anybody else wants to speak for or against or make any other comment with respect to this item that's on the agenda? It's PZ 2024-131, it's La Quinta Green's request for a variance at 2830 San Antonio Street. Hearing none? Gentlemen, what's your situation? Discussion, questions, or a motion?
This is the one that I think.
Yeah. Mr. Rose off of this one, so it's us 5.
Okay.
So, questions, discussion, motions?
That's a water line, right?
No, it's a wood fence. That's wood fence,
It's wood fence.
wood fence down that side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see, there's a, if you see the,
Yeah, I
that's
see
that
the
wood fence.
Yeah.
I make a motion. We approve file PZ 2024-131.
I second.
So we have a motion, a second. Would you call the roll for a vote, ma'am?
Chairman Tamayo,
For it?
Board Member Rowe, I'm sorry, Board Member Hilliard,
4.
Board Member Sorrell,
For it.
alternate Board Member Lucas,
4.
alternate Board Member Jones.
For it.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Talk to the staff, because there's a 10-day waiting period, and then you can go forward, okay? And they'll clarify all of that with you after the meeting, if you would. Talk to them after the meeting, please. You don't have to. You can call them later if you want to, but however you want to handle it. Same place you go for a variance?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, good enough. Item 3 on the agenda, PZ 2024-132, a request by Rolando Carbajal for a variance at 4175 Ironton, residential single-family dwelling zone that would normally have a minimum rear setback. The request is for a variance from 25 feet to 5 feet to accommodate a structure that was built without a permit. We're going to accept the written report as it's presented. And would you tell us what other information is available to us?
Sure.
Okay.
We mailed out 22 property owner notices, received 0 in favor, 0 in opposition. On the screen, you'll see the subject property highlighted. Site plan. Subject property. And then this is from the exterior side yard on the other corner street, showing the side of the structure. We were unable to get a view of the rear of the structure. And that's all we have. Any questions, comments?
Mailed out,
22 property owner notices, received 0 in favor, 0 in opposition.
okay.
Are they building it? Is that the
It's,
structure? Because it says they had a slab.
yeah, the structure is essentially done. They haven't finished it out, the finishing touches of it, as they received a stop work order and received information that they needed a variance for the location.
Okay, I got you.
So that photograph you showed us, Elaine, you were standing on Prairie, right?
Yes, sir.
Looking, so we're looking into the
Looking
side,
into the lot, that is the side of that new structure
right?
or new addition.
And so that's going to be open air, just
Yes.
patio.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions of the staff member? Okay. All right. Let's hear from Rolando Carbajal or someone speaking on his behalf.
Pretty brazen.
If you would do like the lady preceded you, just tell us your name, your address, what your relationship is to the property, and tell us whatever you want to say.
Juliana Carbajal, 4175 Ironton Street, and my husband is the owner.
Go ahead.
We built the patio just for the summers coming for the kids, and we didn't know we needed a permit since it was an open patio.
Who actually built the patio? Who did the actual work?
My husband and a few of his friends.
And do any of them work in the construction trades in Beaumont?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's okay. We heard from him, but she answered, it's
Okay.
okay. We're confirmed. How many of this group that built this work in the construction trades in Beaumont?
Maybe like 2 or 3.
And that's their regular job?
Yes.
Okay. Was there anybody that was kind of the lead contractor or somebody that was was your family and your husband working as kind of the supervisor?
Yeah.
Lead
Yeah.
contractor? Okay.
Your husband works in the construction field?
Yeah, you can say that. He does a little bit of everything. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question,
Okay,
just,
yeah.
just for
We
location.
realize, just for information, real quick, before you take off. Mr. Jones has dropped out of this one because he deferred to Mr. Lucas. And so we're working with us five. Go ahead.
So since Elena couldn't get a picture from the backside, so if I understand the sketch right, so the back of the garage that's been there, it was there.
Yes.
You didn't build, it was there at the house. The new porch or patio is in line with
Yes.
that wall, right? So, I mean, we're not going past,
No.
there's already a building there that we're
Correct.
in line with. You understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, the back.
So if you look at that
the back's in
picture-
line with the previous.
If you go back, if you go back to that photograph, you can kind of see that garage back there.
Yeah.
So the back wall of the garage and the edge of the patio is all.
But we don't know because we don't have a survey. We have a.
That's why I asked her.
Oh,
It's
but
in line.
this is a drawing that was, we don't really know.
Yeah. Elena, did you?
We don't really know where it sits on the property line. We don't know anything.
So we do accept hand-drawn site plans for many, many construction projects in the city of Beaumont. So they do also have to sign a hand-drawn acknowledgement form. And we do pull any plats or deeds of records that we have showing any easements, sanitary lines, anything like that. And based on what we can measure with our GIS and what we can see on site, they do both match. So everything that we can see confirms with the measurements that they've provided.
That's why I just want to say, your visual observation, you would think that roof line of that add-on
Yes.
patio lines up with the garage.
Yes.
Any other questions of this witness? Anything else you want to talk to us about?
No.
Okay, if you'd step back, I'll ask if there's anybody else in the room that wants to speak for, against, or make any kind of comment on this request for a variance at 4175 Ironton in Beaumont. And hearing none, gentlemen, ex-Jones, what's your situation, comments, questions, motion?
Make a motion and we approve the file PZ 2024132.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Would you call roll for a vote, please?
Chairman Tamayo,
I'm for it.
Board Member Hilliard,
Four.
Board Member Rowe,
Or
Board Member Sorrell,
For it.
alternate Board Member Lucas.
For it. All right. We move on then to item 4 on the agenda. Richard and Chris Dalio requesting a double variance, reducing the minimum structure setback from 5 feet to 3/4 of a foot, and I believe that's side yard, and pavement requirement reduction from 2 feet to 0 at 5975 Highway 105 under PZ 2024-136. So I'm going to accept into the record the written report. Would you tell us what we don't have in the written report?
Yes, sir. In addition to that, a big portion of this request comes from the TxDOT right-of-way expansion years ago, eating up a lot of their frontage, leaving them minimum room to move around. With that being said, speaking with engineering, they're not necessarily concerned with the addition of the pavement, as a majority of the area already there is an impervious surface. On the screen, you'll see the proposed site plan. This is an expansion of a automated car wash from what they have existing. They'd be removing portion of the existing car wash. This is the existing site. So that automated portion on the left is going to be extended down and the portion on the right will be removed.
Extended down meaning toward us?
Towards the back of the property. I apologize,
Back
not
of the
towards 105.
All right.
And this is the exterior side of this lot showing where the expansion will take place.
The expansion's going out the back.
Yes.
Okay. How long ago was the change in 105?
It was early 2000s, I believe.
before then. It was before then. I worked on that job.
Say it was.
It was in the 90s. It was early 90s.
Do we got to recuse you again? All right, this time around, you're out. Sorry, brother. All right. Anything else? For, against?
We did send 8 property owner notices and we received 0 in response.
All right. Anything else from this lady? Questions? All right. Who wants to speak in favor of this proposal? One at a time, please. Same thing, just,
Rick Dallio, it's 5975 Highway 105, it's Dallio Car Wash. So basically, what we're wanting to do, this car wash was built in 1977, and was, it's been through 3 iterations. So this will be the 4th remodel to this car wash, just trying to keep it as our family business. My dad built it originally, and so the plan is we're going to convert it into a tunnel car wash. We're just not competitive anymore as a self-serve. So we're going to tear the self-serve portion down, extend the automated portion to the rear another 50 feet, so we can have we're going to have an 80-foot tunnel, basically. So
single tunnel?
Single tunnel, and we chose 80. We're trying to compete. I mean, most of the tunnels are longer than 80, but there are some other ones. So we're trying to stay competitive with the competition, offer the same amount in a smaller package.
Did you consider running it a little bit of an angle, a little bit of a diagonal instead of straight forward and back?
I can't. There's just not enough room as we put the vacuum area and the lanes for the pay stations. It just doesn't give me enough room for cars. You know, I need that 24-foot minimum. We tried to squeeze. We drew this many ways, and this was the best I could come up with to allow some parking spaces for my dumpster, for the vacuums and pay stations, and the ability for a car to make that radius to get straight to enter the tunnel.
Okay.
I mean, essentially, we're not changing anything other than the south border. You know, we're trying to get as much concrete as we can to allow the radius. To the east and west, we're already, that was like that. I mean, the self-serve portion in 77, it's never changed. And then when we added the automatic, that was when we went to the pre-development meeting, Elena, we couldn't find, there was no record of a variance back then. So she's like, just reapply for it.
Okay.
You're already there, but let's make it official.
So Elena, can you go back to that photograph that was kind of showing that side wall? That one. So looking at the rear and looking at that yard, I think that's Southwestern Bell or AT&T behind you, right?
Right.
Is that pavement right now going almost right to that fence?
It is.
I mean, it's, the paved
Close.
surface is close. It's already, you're pretty much paved to the fence line already.
Yeah.
That's what I was seeing. So you're really not adding pavement.
We're not adding much, no. There's not much that's not paved, so we're not adding much. And then, you know, we're gonna do our part to make it, you know, we've already got our drainage plan set up. We're gonna fence it. We're gonna make it a very nice looking property where we don't affect any of our neighbors. It'll actually be nicer after we do the remodel.
Any other questions of witness? You got a question? Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything, unless you want to say something else. Huh? All right. Anybody else want to speak for, against, or otherwise make a comment on this? Gentlemen?
I make them.
Ex-Mr. Lucas, I think we're back to you.
Yeah.
I missed that spot. I think that was the only one that had hot water.
I make a motion, we approve.
Okay. Mr. Hilliard moves
PZ
approval
2024-136,
as requested.
as requested.
Second, from Mr. Jones. Would you call the roll for a vote, please?
So I'm sorry, did you say that everyone will be voting, or?
No, we're setting out Mr. Lucas this time and taking,
Mr. Lucas, can you just turn off your mic when you're not participating so Susan can keep it? Thank you.
Chairman Tamayo?
for it.
Board Member Hilliard?
Four.
Board Member Rowe?
For
Board Member Sorrell?
For it.
Alternate Board Member Jones?
For it.
Because we can only vote. We're going back and forth between you and Chris. So now you're back on. Just turn off.
You need
You're up for the next one. Congratulations.
Back on, huh?
I just want you to feel wanted.
You're pretty unwanted on that one.
I'm sorry. We're doing the best we can. All right, so we're up for, next item on the agenda, PZ 2024-142. This is a request by Tate Floyd on behalf of Clay Dugas for a building height variance for an accessory structure from 20 feet to 24 feet at 4420 Calder Avenue. I'm going to accept the written report as evidentiary, and if you would tell us, give us some, lay it out for us in photographs and give us something about what we haven't seen.
Sure.
Thank you, ma'am.
On the screen is the subject property outlined. This is a corner lot of Calder and Thomas, with the rear being the north side of this property. That is important to know. The west side of the property is considered an interior property line. This is the structural drawings showing the overall mean height of 23 feet 7 inches. Just for cautionary sake, the variance is to request of the 24-foot height to allow for any determination of slab, dirt work, things like that. On the screen is the secondary submitted site plan after the change in orientation of the building. The zoomed in image of it showing that it is 7 foot 9 inches from the interior property line, 5 feet 11 and 6 foot 1 from the rear property line.
And north is to the right.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is an image from one of our building inspectors. And this is an image from Thomas Road showing the green accessory building at the rear. We did mail out 26 property owner notices. We got 3 in response. All 3 were in opposition of the request. Only 2 had comments. The first being read as, it appears that Dugas submitted one set of drawings and got a permit and then built a different building. The city knew he was out of code from beginning. The monstrosity he is building will diminish my property value and impede my enjoyment of my property. It is also close to the fence of neighbors behind us. This man's desires should not be more important than other property owners. And then the last response says that, I'm sorry, some of the writing's a little hard to read. In addition to the height matter, I am to understand that the subject structure is also in violation of setback codes. Move over side that progress to date on the structure was affected in disregard of both height and said setback codes. Exhibits a level of, I'm sorry, I can't read this portion, something which should, and if in theory, disqualify any variance. And just to clarify that the setbacks itself are compliant as accessory structures under that 20 feet can be located up to 2.5 feet from the property line. The question here is the height of the building.
And in terms of the plan that was submitted for the application for the building permit, what drawing or whatever information did you get?
Yes.
So we know whether that's an accurate claim or not?
Yes, so the original, sorry, I have it in here,
Okay.
site plan.
You don't have a picture of it or anything?
I do not, I
That's okay.
apologize. I thought I had it.
Tell us if it looks like the one that we-
So it's essentially the same that is here, yes. But the original approved site plan, I believe, had it 10 feet off the interior side and I believe right at 10 feet off the rear.
But it's the same structural.
Same structural drawings, just the orientation, I believe, changed of the building.
Okay. And the permit was granted,
Yes.
and then you find out that there's a problem with it.
Yeah, through inspection services, yes.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Any other questions? All right. Who wants to speak otherwise to this item? Let's hear first from the applicant. Tate Floyd or Clay Dugas, please. Same routine, just tell us your name, address, and tell us your relationship to the property, and tell us what you want to say.
Tate Floyd, the contractor for Mr. Dugas.
Okay. And your address is?
The property address,
Yeah, well, if you want to use the property address, we're not going to push you on whatever. But,
4420 Calder.
yeah, all right.
So we went through the normal means of permitting. To be clear, the building has a 20-foot eave height. That's the height of the building. But to make it more residential, we put a bigger pitch to it. Match colors to match the trees, the grass, the stucco around the house, you know, to make it, added eaves, soffits, just dressed it up to make it look as residential as possible.
This is a storage building of some kind?
Storage, he has no garage on site, so vehicles have been outside. He had 2 sea containers in the backyard with various landscaping equipment. So this is his garage to put everything in. Attic storage, he's gonna put a attic inside to put all the Christmas decorations, the seasonal type things. And, you know, frankly, it fits the property. You know, I think it's fitting.
Gets rid of the containers?
Sir, we got rid of the containers.
Anything else you want to say? Any other questions of the witness?
He's gonna be storing cars back here?
It's like a garage, just the daily drivers and, you know, weekend automobiles. It's not just storage for vehicles, but just like you do your garage.
So you put a pitch on it so he can have storage up higher?
One of the concerns was not to have it look like a warehouse in the backyard. You know, so he's done things to dress it up to be more residential.
When you went in for the permit, you knew the 20-foot building height requirement?
No, sir.
How much of the building has been built?
It's over 3/4. We have, I believe, 1 wall and a roof.
That's it?
There's 3 wall, there's 2 and, a little over 2.5 walls completed, all the framework.
Where's the stucco and all that? I see the green tin, but where's the stucco?
So it's gonna be in the trim. You know, there's I think it's a smoky pewter is the color.
It's gonna keep the tin on the outside, the metal?
Yes, sir. There's soffits on here, gabled trim that, you know, that has a different color, just kind of match the surroundings. The building had to be where it's at, you know, to save the big oak trees that are in the property. It's got a lot of live oaks, and I think once it's complete, it'll look fine. To be in compliance, it would have to come down just a little over 3 foot. So by looking at this picture here, you know, if it came down 3 foot, I don't know how much difference it would make.
Any other questions of the witness? Anything else you want to tell us?
No.
All right. Is there anybody else who wants to speak for, against, or otherwise make a comment on PZ 2024-142, which is this request for accessory structure height variance at 4420 Calder?
Afternoon, gentlemen.
Yes.
Clay Dugas, 4420 Calder. We've lived at this house for 12, 13 years, hadn't had a garage. We got trees all over the place. We got more trees, I think, than anybody, but we needed a place to store yard equipment. We had, I could show you, may I approach?
Yes, sir, go ahead. We'll pass them around. You can start at that end and work this way.
That's what we had. Storage containers, which I think is probably hideous and ugly. And then this also is the neighbor's yard, so we don't want to be a bad neighbor. I don't want to have conflict with any of my neighbors, honestly. And if there's a way I could work this out, win-win, I'd be happy to do that. It would cost $56,000 to lower this 3 feet 7 inches. That's a lot of money. I'd rather donate that to charity or part of it than have to do that. I'm trying to find a way to make my neighbors happy because we should talk more, obviously. But I'm not here for a controversy. I wasn't trying to build an ugly structure. I've got a beautiful house. And we've put over $1 million into that house since we've been there. In the wall, and we put synthetic grass. We put new brick. It's an old house. Every day we've got pickup trucks in the driveway, it seems like, working on it. But we really care about the appearance of it. We took a lot of time in deciding the colors, and we want it to blend in. We're not trying to be a bully in the neighborhood. I've got 2 Sprinter vans. One is sitting at a storage facility that I tried to start up on Memorial Day and wouldn't start up because I didn't have access to it, and it died. So I'd like to have my Sprinter van and my Airstream in my garage, along with my lawn equipment. And I'm sorry that it's caused a little ruckus with the neighbors. I had no intention of doing that. We're trying to be good neighbors, not bad neighbors. But we did have a permit to do this. And, you know, what's ugly is right now an unfinished structure. So either, I guess you grant the variance at 3 feet 7 inches, or we knock it down. And it seems to me that's money that could be spent elsewhere. I'd rather donate that to charity than have to spend it on something like this. So however we could work this out, I'm for it. I'm not looking to be a pain. I'm a litigator by nature, but this isn't what I want to do here. I want to be a good neighbor, and I want to have peace. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak for, against, or otherwise make a comment on file PZ 2024-142? Going once? All right, going twice.
Can I offer you my own pictures?
Yes, ma'am, you can. We'll start at that end and we'll just pass them around. But if you would, while we're looking at them, go ahead and tell us your name, your address, your relationship to the property or some surrounding property, and then tell us whatever you want to say. Okay.
My name is Cortland Spots, and I'm a co-owner with my mom, Bonnie. The address is 695 Thomas Road. And I'm just going to give you an outline of how this came about from our point of view.
Go ahead. Speak real well into the microphone. All right, or just pull it down to you. Thank you.
I went outside to let my dogs out on Monday, May 6th, and I saw these huge metal poles sticking out of the ground, or iron-looking poles. I think there's photos in the packet. And so I called my friend, Sammy Bevilacqua, who's a contractor, and I was like, what is this? And he said, it looks like it's going to be a metal building. So I actually am friends with the neighbor's son from high school. So I messaged him on Instagram, and I was like, please tell me your parents aren't building a metal shed. And he said, I think it's a garage. I don't know. And so I called the city that day, and I asked if the neighbors had an approved permit, and they said he did. And at that time, I hadn't looked through the code or anything, so I didn't question it. I just thought, okay, like, that's strange. But it was just so big and obnoxious looking to me that I knew something was off. So I read through the code, and I realized the building was too tall and too close to the property line. So I called the city back, and I cited the code, and I was just repeatedly put on hold, and they would say, like, oh, like, we'll get a supervisor. But it was just the same thing, round and round, and they told me that everything was fine. And so the next day I called the city attorney's office because the planning department was supposed to call me back, and they didn't. So I called the city attorney's office. I talked to an assistant attorney named Chase, and he said he would investigate it. And then later that afternoon, I finally received a call back from the city planning department, and they said that they were going to send somebody out to look at it, and they would get back to me next week. But like from Monday to Wednesday, this is basically what went up. Like it went up really quickly. And so I called the city attorney's office back, and I said that they needed to stop the job until we could make sure that everything was in compliance with the city code. And he was basically like, I can't really get involved in that. Like, I'm sorry. And so I just felt like we were given the runaround, and they didn't do anything to help. And that's the reason that the building is, you know, 3/4, whatever he said, built. The only reason that we're here today is because my mom reached out to Mike Getz, and he called, and within 30 minutes, they were putting a stop work order together. And I think if you look through that packet, there's emails from like Chris Boone and other people in city government, and they confirmed that the structure is too tall. And they said that there was a valid permit, but then they changed the site plan and built according to a permit that wasn't approved. And I think that we're the reason that this came to be. I don't know about an inspection that caught it.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I mean, it also violates the deed restrictions, but we were told that y'all can't really help with that.
We can't really work on the deed restrictions. What's your understanding of the change in the site plan from original application to the, whatever the change is?
I haven't,
All that I can gather so far is that there may have been a movement of the building on the land, but that the height of the original structure was not changed in the secondary, if there was a change or an amendment.
I just don't believe them because I feel like I got the runaround the whole time and I haven't seen the original site plan.
Okay.
And that photo, for example, that they used is from my driveway. And I just think it's going to decrease the value of the home. I mean, I've had so many people text me, be like, what is going on?
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Spots? I'll leave you for a moment to review things, Steve, if you want to.
Yeah.
And here, you can look at mine if you want to. I went through it fairly clean.
Is this the same?
It's the same thing, I think, yeah. There's a shadow. There's a shadow. Yeah. I see you've got some pictures of proximity to a power line. You know what the proximity is? Not that we can do anything about that, but
No, I don't. I think Energy is in the process of reviewing it. I've met with Energy at a neighbor from the street behind me. They're here today. They just don't want to like voice their opposition in front of everyone. But they didn't have like a ladder to measure the distance.
Literally right there.
here's where I am with this. I'm trying to get my information right before we make a decision. As best I can tell from hearing the staff report, from looking at all the photographs, reading through, and I read it pretty fast, so I may have missed some. The only flaw in size, shape, position, anything that we can deal with as an ordinance, a difference from a variation, or to grant a variance or not grant a variance, is the height of the structure. 23 feet, whatever, versus 20 feet. I can't find anything else that impinges on a city ordinance. And that's really all we can work with. Can you help us with that? Is there anything else that you can point us to that's straight up, plain, direct evidence that says there's a disagreement between the actual structure, the building that's there in frame and partial clad?
Not
And the
including the deed
ordinance.
restrictions, just from the ordinance?
Just from the ordinance, yeah, because we can't deal with the deed restrictions. We can only deal with the ordinance, and the question is, we can only do grant, deny. That's it. That's our deal.
Well, I guess if the variance is granted, you're letting it stay too high. I mean, and it's too close to the fence. And I don't even think it's 6 feet from my fence. If you look at the pictures, it's like, I don't know if the drainage is gonna work. I don't know if it's gonna run off the roof into my yard.
Okay.
But I don't think it's 6 feet, and I don't know who drew that, but
But yeah, to go back to what Chairman was saying is the location on the lot is not a question to us today.
Yeah, it's really not, because he can go within 2.5 feet of the fence.
if it's less than 20 feet,
He can go within 2.5 feet of the fence.
if it's under 20 feet,
If it were under 20 feet, it would be totally in compliance at 2.5 feet from the property line. Don't know whether the fence is on the property line. But we go from property lines, not from fences.
I understand where you're coming from. I just think it's,
And I understand, okay, and I understand, there's the aesthetics and all the rest of that. But the only thing that we can deal with right now is, what's the ordinance say? How does the building vary from the requirements of the ordinance? Do we grant or deny?
okay.
Okay,
Someone else to turn. Thank you.
all right, good, all right. Yes, ma'am, come on, tell us your name, as if we didn't know.
My name is Bonnie Spots. I'm Cortland's mother. We own the property together, 695 Thomas Road. I want to point out a couple of things. Number one, when they submitted their original plan, did they say it was going to be 24 feet? Because to me, the city granted a permit which shouldn't have been granted. Because, if they said it's going to be 23.5 feet, then they shouldn't have granted it because that's outside of the ordinance. So I'm not sure, we haven't had the privilege of seeing any of this stuff. So I'm not sure what they submitted. But Chris Boone told us they submitted one thing on March the 16th, and then they started building something else, that they did file another motion or whatever to amend the former thing, but it was never voted on or whatever. There was nothing done with that second one. Well, when we started, when we first saw the building, we saw these huge steel things going up. And the reason why I wanted to show you pictures is, as you see, it looks quite different from my driveway. And out my kitchen window, instead of seeing beautiful trees and sky, I now see this big green monstrosity. Sorry, Clay. Anyway, and it just totally blocks the view. When I'm pulling into my driveway, it is a substantial building, and you can see in one of those how big it is. Now, I don't know if there's one in there with the sides on it, but when you put those sides on it, it really, it's just like this huge building is right there, right at my property line. We have a big cement wall, and it's right there on the other side of that. I think Mr. Dugas knew the law when he did it. I think his builder knew it, and I think they asked for a permit because they frankly don't care. And I don't want to be a bad neighbor either, but I think my rights are just as important as his. I think that this will hurt our property value. It will hurt our curb appeal when people, drive into our driveway and see that. I've looked into, providing landscaping to see if I could cover it. It's so tall, I can't even find a tree that would grow to that height within 5 or 6 years. So I'm stuck looking at it. I've tried, had people look at it and say, how could we, do something to distract from it? And so I think it's an undue burden on us to have to try to camouflage or distract you from looking at that building. So for me, it says, that the conditions for approval, one of them is, that it doesn't interfere with our use of our property, and I feel like it does. Right where that building is my outside patio. There's a raised wooden deck there, and then there's a brick patio, and we entertain out there. Well, now we're going to be looking at this big, huge building, and I do not know what the roofing's going to be, but if it's tin, it's very hot. It produces hot. It radiates heat down to the other property, so we won't be able to sit out there and enjoy our property because heat will be radiating off of that roof. And then, as my son said, we don't know if he's putting gutters or what, or where the water coming off that roof is going to go, and if that's going to cause a drainage problem for us. We already have a bit of a drainage issue on the other side of that driveway that we're dealing with. And so I'm not excited about having to put a, drain all the way down the driveway to put, to get rid of the water that's coming off of his building. Also, on the conditions for approving, it says that they have to provide sufficient landscaping and screening. I don't know anything about that. If he submitted that, if he's planning on landscaping around it or screening it in some way so that I won't see it. I guess, is he asking for a specific use permit? I'm not sure about the language in here.
No, it's a variance. It's just a question of variance.
Okay, just variance, okay.
Mhm.
So we feel like that our property is going, it's going to hurt our curb appeal, and it's going to make the property unsellable. I can tell you, if when I saw that property, that huge building was there, I would not have bought the house, because it definitely is an eyesore. We even put it on Facebook, and I know that that's not the law or anything else, but everyone going down the street, and everyone's going, what in the world are they building right there? And what are you going to do about it? You know, and so we would ask that he have to bring it down to code, and that he have to put landscaping and screening around it to where it's not an eyesore for our property. Thank you.
Sure. Before you take off, any questions for this one? Yeah, all right. Anyone else want to speak for, against, or otherwise make a comment on file PZ 2024-142? Yes, sir, come on. Yeah, come on. Yeah.
Can I clarify a couple of things?
Yes, sir, you may rebut, and
I think there's one other person who'd like to speak before you rebuttal. We usually let all the opposition, so you
yeah,
can address all the concerns.
I didn't see anybody else stand up. Was there somebody else that came in?
No, I think she stood up at the same time.
Oh, okay, I'm
previously, and
sorry, I missed
she
you.
deferred, yeah, to them.
I'm sorry. Yeah, let's let everybody speak,
Moving
and then
real
you can
quick
come
today,
back up.
Chairman.
No, you're good. That's all right. We'll run through everybody and then come back. Then you get to rebut everybody. Go ahead.
My name is Christy Shade. I live at 190 East Circuit Drive. We were on vacation when this was constructed, came home to it. Could I approach and show you?
Yes, ma'am. If it's on the phone, we may have to just pass it around.
Well, the only thing I will
let's go.
say for that is that anything shown to the board has to be submitted into evidence.
Yeah.
So if you want, so you can show them, but then you need to email them to planning
Yeah.
so that we can, is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And she'll give you an email address, and you can email that photo to her, okay? Let's go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
8-foot fence.
Yeah.
You can see the power lines.
Okay. Hmm.
No way to.
And that's your backyard? That's across your backyard?
That is actually my neighbor's backyard. On
Okay.
the corner, and I have other photos.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
It's an 8-foot.
We don't need to see every one, but, enough to illustrate the point's good. Okay. Thank you. She'll give you an email address you can use.
You want to see from my backyard? Very similar.
Yeah, if you can. That's fine. Sure. Let's show whatever you want to. Let's just show it to everybody.
Okay, thanks, ma'am.
Okay. And that's your backyard?
My backyard.
Okay. She's on the next street. Behind. She sits.
Okay, I guess initially I have a question, just so I understand completely. I think we should all just operate on facts and truth and go from there. But if I understand correctly, a permit was submitted and authorized by the city, and everything was within permit range? Signed off on?
We're gonna reconfirm that. That's been raised by both of you. And so we're gonna cycle back through that. I think I've already checked that, and I asked those questions early on, but we're gonna cycle back.
Okay, all right, well, okay. So I guess that's kind of up in the air. However, I guess it is in agreement that it is above the ordinance
20 feet.
height. Okay, so I guess we do need to wait to see what actually comes of the investigation. But if it was submitted, the permit was submitted and it was authorized by the building code committee, and then a change was made after the permit was signed,
We'll cover that too. We'll cycle back through that.
okay,
But I think I think you can take as admitted that it's 3 feet 7 inches taller than 20 feet.
I do think it is important to make sure whether it was signed by the committee by the building code as 3 feet over the variance, because I think that takes away some of the culpability of the builder. Or if it was, the permit was submitted, accurate, the way that it met the ordinance and it was signed by the building code committee, and then it was intentionally and deliberately changed after that permit was signed, that was within the ordinance. I think, to me, that is what really should be what is most important when trying to figure out whether a variance should be granted. Was this intentional and deliberate to deceive the building code and built it higher than the permit allowed? If the city signed off on it and it was within the permit ordinance rules. So to me, that is something I really need an answer to. And also, we talk about landscaping. It is so close to the fence and so close to the high wire, to the electrical wires. There's really, you can't plant anything. Yeah, it might take us 10 years to even get it that tall. But when it does get that tall, it will be hitting the wires. So energy will come in and be cutting them down. There's really no way to camouflage this in the least. So I will wait to find out exactly what is the finding on that issue.
Well, I don't know that we're going to issue a finding, but I've touched on those questions and I asked them myself early on, and I thought I had gotten at least implied information, but we'll bluntly ask those questions in this next cycle around, and we'll clear it out. And if we haven't, then you get back up and ask the questions again. Okay.
All right, great, thank you.
Because we want to hear from everybody before we make a decision. All right, thank you. Yes. All right. So is there anyone else who wants to speak for or against? Yes, ma'am, come on. Same routine. Tell us who you are and where you are. And
my name is Kelly Sauceda. I'm at 170 East Circuit Street or Drive, and I'm actually new to the neighborhood. And when I moved into this house, I mean, my backyard is my oasis. And all I see are these giant, ugly garage doors that do not look like garage doors. They look like warehouse doors. It looks like a warehouse in the middle of my backyard. And I'm next to the other guy that has nothing but the green thing. And it's just, I mean, it's a monstrosity to our neighborhood. It's going to depreciate the value of my property. And so 3 feet, whatever, it needs to come down. It needs to do whatever it is to meet the building codes, whatever that he has to do it. Nobody's out sitting on our side of the street looking at what that looks like. It is horrible. It is a monstrosity. I mean, it's just, would you want to sit out here if you're in your backyard and just stare at this big old ugly green building? It's horrible. And I just wanted to state my facts and my opinion on it because I don't think it's right.
okay, can you tell us, do you live next door to this lady who spoke before?
I live next door to the guy that has the big green building. I mean, we live on both sides.
Okay,
But my
okay,
side
you
just
live on the other
happens
side,
to be
yeah.
the side that all I see are these giant, huge garage doors. Okay, that's not a garage door.
I understand.
That's a warehouse door.
She'd shown us a picture from her next door neighbor, and I
mean,
wanted to find out if that was
I'm
you.
going to email one in too from mine because look, I have umbrellas and flowers and trees, and it's what I love is my backyard. That's my oasis. It's where I don't know anybody to entertain yet, but when I do, we don't want to sit and look at this giant, ugly building. I mean, and you can't miss it. I mean, I don't even have that. I still have a stucco one right in the very back of my backyard that I like, oh my God. But that was there before I got there, so I have to deal with that one. But the other one, no. I think that it should really be voted against. And if it takes money to unbuild it and build it back the way it was, well, then should have come back there and look at our part from our view first, because it's just not right. And I just wanted to say what I wanted to say.
Ms. Kelly, before you leave the podium, sorry, Ms. Chairman, could you state your last name again for the record?
Sauceda, Sauceda. My sister is the owner of the property, Carrie Pierce.
Okay, she didn't catch your first name, but before you leave, I would tell you that unless the pictures are shown to the Board of Adjustment Commission today, they won't be included in the packet that's sent to council, so.
Y'all just remember, it's the same thing, just with giant garage doors.
Yeah, I think if your neighbor has them, she can submit them.
Anybody else want to speak for or against, make a comment? Yes, sir, come on.
My name's Larry Shade, 190 East Circuit. Lot 7 is our lot. Lot 6 is his, and it's the one she showed you, it's just there. Lot 7, we're looking out of our backyard. It dominates the yard. And as my wife said, there's no way we can plant anything on our side to cover this thing, to hide it, to do anything with it except be there. So for me, that it's a property value issue. It's gonna pull our property value down. Who's gonna want to buy that house? We put a lot of money, not $1 million, but we put a lot of money into our yard. Getting the backyard nice and pretty and livable, and now you go out there, the first thing you see is that wall. So, I mean, 3 feet, it'll still be there, but it'll be less. If that's the best we can do, we'll have less of a wall there. And I mean, if our good neighbor can put up some trees or trellises or God, I don't know what he could possibly do to disguise it and hide it, we'd be all for it. But I mean, I'm standing with my neighbors. We just we think it's wrong, and we'd like to see something done to help us. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? None? Yes, sir. Wait. We're gonna get you, okay? We get first hearing from everybody. All right. Now let's let the applicant come back and say what they want to say. And you want one more? Come on. All right. I know you were reluctant, but we want everybody to speak that's going to speak.
180 East Circuit. I'm just going to confirm that it takes up 70% of the view from my back porch. So sitting out there, it's an obstruction.
Okay.
I think dropping it 3.5 feet, I would have a little bit better view.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Anybody else that's new and hasn't spoken yet? All right. If you want to rebut, come on.
Not really a rebuttal, just a little clarification.
All right, that's fine.
There was a change.
All right.
How it was originally drawn out, but the intent was always the same, how the building's laid out now. It would not have fit on the property how it was laid out, and it was, prior to pouring the concrete, it was straightened out within the city.
Well, wait, explain.
So if you look at the picture behind you, my secretary who made the drawing had rotated this 90 degrees. Okay, and because it was not into scale, it looked like it would fit. It was a confusion. She came off of Thomas Road, not the Calder, with a deal. We just worked it out over the telephone. Okay. The reason we decided not to go 2.5 foot from the property line, because trying to protect the trees, but we needed it for the drainage. So the drainage is going to be addressed with the gutters and downspouts, and he's got underground drainage that this will eventually go to.
Before you take off anymore, so I want to make sure we got this clear, absolutely locked in on the record. You make a request for a permit. Is this structural steel in that first permit request?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the height and the size of the building is in the first permit request?
Yes.
And the only thing you changed in the second permit request, you say, is you rotated 90 degrees?
Yes, it was just put on there wrong. The building would not have fit the other way.
Okay. Is there any other change you made between the original permit request and the changed permit request than rotating the building 90 degrees?
And a metal building, which I happen to think are beautiful, I make my living with them. The height of the building is called at the eave height. And so the eave of the building is 20 foot. There was nothing disingenuous done to try to pull the wool over anybody. We simply put a bit more pitch on it to make it look more residential.
And so basically you've got, looks like 22.5 feet, 45 feet wide, and across 45 feet, 22.5 feet each way. 2 feet 7 inches of pitch.
Yes,
And that's it.
sir. And keep in mind, the man's house is 30-foot tall plus. The trees that this thing is sitting under are, I would say, close to 40 foot. They're well above this. So, like I said before, I feel like it fits on the property. And, well, the power lines, we are more than 10 foot as energy requires to be at least 10 foot or more from their main transmission lines. There are some lower lines that may be AT&T that may encroach about 9 foot. Nobody wants to stick a metal tape measure over there to find out anything like that. But energy needs to come to the site anyway. All those power lines need to be replaced. They're 50 years old looking. Look like they're going to fall toward Circuit Street. You know, they're in bad shape. So,
Yeah.
there needs to be something there anyway.
Well, I know some clearances are 10 feet, some clearances are 6.
When I talk to Energy, they want 10 foot from their main transmission lines.
Okay.
Especially for a metal building.
Yeah, for a metal building, they would want that.
It'll arc.
Yeah.
So like I said, the drainage is a big concern. That's why we didn't put it right up against the fence. We pulled it back to make room, which also starts getting closer to the live oak tree canopies. So we found a happy medium there to allow room for the drainage, to get it away from the building. And I think once people see the trim and everything on this thing with some more colors to it, I think it'll look better. Now, they may not be able to see as much looking across someone else's yard to the sky, but whatever they were seeing out of their yard, they're going to continue to see that's not in their neighbor's yard.
The vertical wall's still going to be a metal wall.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Garage doors. There are no garage doors on site. The garage doors are custom garage doors. They're going to be painted a color to match the house. They're sitting with the garage door company, ready to be painted. We just stopped the paint.
And which side is the garage door going to be?
They're facing Calder Road, where no neighbor should even see the garage doors.
And this ridge row, I'm having a hard time making sure that I know which direction everything goes, but it looks to me like this ridge row runs north and south, essentially. Is that right?
East and west.
East-west?
Yes, sir.
East-west.
Yes, sir.
Wrong direction.
Okay, all right, because I'm looking at 26 and a half, 22.6, 44, 45 feet across this photograph.
Yes, sir.
How deep is the building?
From that way going in?
Yeah.
It's 3 25-foot sections, so it's 75 feet.
75 feet.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so across this fence that the spots have, that's 75 feet of wall.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure I understand.
And that drawing's pretty scaled to the place. So as I said before, it fits on the property. It's, it's just enough for the vehicles, the lawn equipment. They take a lot of pride in their yard. They're always working out in the yard, so they have to have, a place to keep all this. Like I said, it was in train boxes and portable building they want to do away with. So
okay.
I think it's going to be a great improvement. We just need to get it finished, and I think people see it a little different.
Okay.
It is tall.
Anything else anybody wants to ask?
But the first permit that you got, it was only for 20 feet.
No, sir.
So you added more pitch to it.
No, this was always our intent. That everything, as the building is now, nothing changed with this building. Nothing changed other than a drawing was made by mistake. It rotated the building 90 degrees. It's still in the same corner.
These are the plans they submitted or approved.
Okay. Any other questions?
The days of going down to the city, laying your papers out on the table, going over, talking with the building officials has changed. So it's done through this portal, and I think there's a lot lost in that. Yes, it makes things better for most cases, but sometimes, you don't have that human interaction that maybe this would have been caught or brought up prior to anything happening. This is a safe structure. The building's meets or exceeds Texas windstorm specifications. You know, I would tend to think that if there were a Category 3 hurricane and you couldn't evacuate, the safest place on that property would be in that building.
So, Mr. Floyd, let's go back. We're just talking height. The shape of the building, the size of the building, the color of the building, that doesn't mean anything, it's just the height. So you're in this business, Mueller did this design. So did we check the ordinance or the city code for the height of the building before we go in? Is the height of the building the definition?
The definition of the building is a 20-foot eave height.
So, and your understanding is that when you heard 20 foot, you're thinking eave. And what's the city think the building height definition is?
I had never heard that there was a limit on height,
Okay.
a height restriction. The only restrictions I've ever dealt with in 25 years has been setbacks from properties. You know, we have had HOAs where they require a little brick or a little something around the building, but I never had a height restriction. Like I said, the man's house is over 30 foot. The live oak trees are close to 50 foot tall. They're 100 years old. So I think it fits nicely in the corner there.
Any other questions? Okay. So let's try to do this in one more cycle. Let everybody have one more chance to speak. Please tell us everything you want to say so we can get through this meeting and have our debate and have a vote. Are you telling me that there's a time limit on us?
No, there's no time limit. I do want to clarify some issues that
Okay.
came up in regards to my office. My office doesn't issue stop work orders, so that has to come from the building official. And so when we investigate it, we circle it back down to planning. As you know, legal often becomes a catch-all, so we circle back down to planning, and it's up to the building official to inspect and determine whether or not that there needs to be a stop work order. That's one. Two, although we have moved to a more electronic system, there are still construction meetings that are held in the building official's office and the planning. So if it's necessity for clarification, that's always available to the builder or contractor as well.
But when does that only occur if somebody sees a problem, recognizes it in the electronic submission, or is that something that's routine?
That's routine. Like anybody can always come up to the window and
They
request
can, but is that-
request a meeting. The building official's here, and so it's his assistant. They can kind of talk to you more about the process. But if there's not something that's a glaring error in the plans, then they wouldn't request a meeting. They're reviewing the plans for specifications. So if there was something that was glaring in the plans, they would have recalled them to do that they could. But also any contractor. Most people still do come to the window. We have a lot of foot traffic at the window.
Okay. So let's back up one more thing. You submit this online.
Yes, sir.
What happens next? Do you get a call? Do you get a permit? What happens next?
We generally call or
Okay.
get called, but I think it could happen without any.
In this case, what happened?
There was communication between my office and, you know, I was told the permit was ready and we picked it up when it was ready.
And that was it?
Yes, sir.
No question about the submission, just a communication that the permit was ready?
Sir.
Okay, and who did that go to? Your secretary or somebody?
sir.
Okay. Who picked up the permit, you or somebody?
Mr. Mike White.
Okay, one of your guys?
Sir.
Okay. Anything else? I don't know what else to ask. All
It
right,
is a 20-foot eave height, you know.
I see that,
you
I
know,
see that, I see.
Look on the plans, it
there's a
shows you
difference.
20-foot eave. That's
All right.
That's just how that.
Good enough. Let's go back through in order of previous, you got-
Out of my turn.
Mr. Jones, are you abstaining from this vote?
No, I think it's still on him, it's still in his pocket.
Okay.
yeah,
So,
he's semi-disqualified.
yeah. So you don't get to participate in discussion.
Yeah, he can obviously participate in discussion and we want his input.
Yeah, but I think the staff is here, and I think some of the questions that you were asking of the applicant could probably be better addressed through staff. I try to, give you all the background, but if there's some more detailed questions.
We're gonna get staff the last word in this. So staff, take notes. because you're gonna get the last word, and then we're gonna haul through. Mr. Spots, you were the first speaker against. You're up.
I guess I just don't know why Mike Getz and Chris Boone would say in writing that they had a permit and then they got another permit that wasn't approved, that was different. Like, why would they make that up?
I can clarify that
All right.
just real
Let's
quick.
clarify that right now. And that's because if there's an accusation of making something up, then we need to give a response.
So the original
What's the
permit receipt, like as stated, there was a separate site plan submitted with the building turned 90 degrees. That was what was stamped and approved. After our inspectors went out for an initial inspection, it was determined that the site plan had changed. Just as Mr. Floyd had stated, they did submit a revised site plan after that initial visit where the rotation was noted. So that is the only change in submittal of permit that was done.
So when a rotation is noted, is that an approval of the rotation or not an approval of rotation?
So at this consideration, this changed in the site plan had not been yet reviewed. However, again, it is still technically in compliance with location requirements.
Okay. So the issue there is location, not height.
But I think it's Mr. Sorrell. I heard you say that the permit that was initially submitted had a different height than the site plan that was used.
No, he asked, we've each asked, and I've asked too, but we've all gotten the answer that the original plan, this drawing, is the same drawing that's in the original submission, the original application. And it's the one that has, this one already has, this has excessive height, and apparently it was approved with excessive height.
Are we able to see the original plan? Or why did Chris Boone say that?
Look, I'm not here to answer for Chris Boone.
No, I know, I just don't know why, like, he doesn't know me, I've never met him. I don't
And
know who he is.
I'm not saying that Chris Boone, I'm not confirming Chris Boone did or didn't say it. For my purposes, it doesn't matter what Chris Boone said. For my purposes, it is, was this submitted? It was submitted, it was approved with excessive height. After that, the change is not of height. So we know that that's rebutted. And I understand it's an aggravation, but it's not something that we can take into consideration in determining, are we going to grant a variance or not grant a variance for something that's 2'7" too high? Or was it 3'7"? 3'7" too high.
I understand, I think I would feel better if I knew that it wasn't like they were trying to pull one over on us.
Well, you're going to have to do your own investigation into that
No, that's
because for
okay.
our purposes, it doesn't matter.
Okay, well, I have just one last thing about the code.
Okay?
I think it's 2803.024C.
Where is that?
You have it in,
Where's the thing he submitted?
we gave him to,
Yeah, we need at least one of those back.
Here you go.
oh, he's,
I got one still. There you go.
Yeah.
He's in there, he's got it.
Go ahead.
Slotted in there.
I'm listening. Which one again? 28 point what?
03024 C17AB.
C17, okay. Go ahead.
So it says, in a residential district, the 25-foot rear yard setback may be reduced to a minimum of 15 feet, provided no accessory buildings of any type shall be permitted to be located in the rear yard unless, and then it gives you 2 points, and those points, like, aren't satisfied here. They aren't met. And so I just,
To clarify, I'm sorry, that is for the extension of the main structure itself. That's not for accessory buildings. So that's saying that the main structure shown here can be up to 15 feet from the rear setback.
That's correct.
The black and the stucco wood.
Stucco and frame, it's got that darkening around it.
Yeah, that ordinance is for the main structure location on the
Yes, sir.
property.
so that no accessory building of any type shall be permitted?
That building, if that house was within 15 foot of that property line,
You couldn't have an accessory building.
couldn't have an accessory building.
But since the house is not within 15 feet of the property line, accessory buildings are allowed. And the question then is, what's the setback for an accessory building? The setback for an accessory building is 2.5 feet. You're talking about setbacks.
Okay. Well, it says
He
height
hadn't asked
regulations.
for a variance on setback. He's only asked for a variance on height. It's all the application that's before us. You can complain about it, you can talk about it, we can hear about it, but we can't make a decision on setback. Today, the only question is grant or deny a variance on height. That's all we can do.
Okay. So
3.7 inches.
Three
The
foot
wall
7
is
inches.
3 feet, 7 inches.
3 feet. 3 feet, 7 inches. So the
Yeah.
wall is still gonna be 20 feet or 19 feet tall.
Yeah.
They're just gonna have to reduce the roof. So you're
Yeah.
still gonna have the eyesore, you're still gonna have the big wall. There's nothing we can do about that. All we can decide on is 3 feet, 7 inches.
The question for us is, can he put a roof on it? Can he put a pitched roof on it?
So that's where the.
You're gonna get the wall.
Yeah, you got the wall. There's nothing we can do about that.
okay, so setbacks are a separate issue. Like,
He's in compliance.
He's in compliance.
Everything else is in total compliance. So all we're being asked to is to grant a variance for 3 feet, 7 inches
Yeah.
height.
Height of it.
So it still can be 20 feet. He just has to do something with the roof. So you're still gonna have the wall. You're gonna have a 75-foot wall. Either it's gonna be 19 feet with a pitch roof, or it's gonna be 20 feet with a semi-flat roof.
Or we're gonna grant a variance and he'll have the pitched roof, but you're still gonna have the wall.
You're still gonna have the wall. There's nothing we can do about the wall.
The ordinance will not prevent that.
okay.
Yeah, you can, take your other remedies, take your other avenues, talk about deed restrictions, whatever, but we can't work with that. We can't do anything with it. All we can do is grant or deny a variance for an additional 4 foot of height in that building.
That's it.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am, come on.
Okay, he says that when he submitted the original one, he said 20 feet, right?
No.
Or he said 24?
He said he was unaware of any building height restrictions. He simply submitted the plan.
Okay, we all know ignorance is no excuse under the law. In the ordinance 28.03.024C1, it says, in residential districts, one-story unattached accessory buildings or structures less than 20 feet in height may be located within 2.5 feet from an interior sidewall. So, number one, if his structure was over 20 feet, wasn't the city wrong in granting the permit? If they knew it was going to be over 20 feet tall?
Bonnie, if they recognized it, they granted it. If the probability is they didn't recognize it.
But should I bear the cost of that because they didn't do their job?
I'm not answering that question.
Okay, well, I'm frustrated because I think the city just granted a permit without looking, without investigating, without seeing what's happening. The builder should have known when he put that roof on there that that was going to add pitch and it was going to add height. And so, here's the ordinance. It says what it says. It doesn't say from the eaves. It says the height of the building has to be less than 20 feet to put it 2.5 feet close to my fence. So he's too close to my fence because the building is over 20 feet, right?
No, that's not correct.
Okay, show me where that's wrong.
It's wrong because the setback is the setback irrespective of the height of the building. Building setback and building height are considered separately.
Well, it's all listed in one. If you read 28.03.024C1, I can bring it to you if you'd like to.
No, we do this every month.
Okay.
So we've seen it every month. And so if you've got a grievance against somebody at the city or an employee of the city, then you've got to take it up with HR or whoever handles that. But
no, I just want the law to be fair for everyone.
The reason he's applying for a variance is because he knows he's not in compliance. And that's the reason that you apply for a variance. That's the reason we're here at all. So we accept that, and, we don't mind you venting on us a little bit, but it's not our decision. We didn't make the decision before. And the only question that we can answer at this point is, does he keep the pitched roof or does he do something to get the overall height of the building down to 20 feet or less?
Okay, my opinion is that he is hurting our property values, and I'm sorry it's going to cost him money if you rule against him and he has to take it down. But if you read the code, I think that I can understand English pretty well. It says that the structure has to be less than 20 feet tall to be located 2.5 feet from my side wall. Okay, so,
We heard that.
okay, so,
And we agreed with it.
so why was he granted the permit?
Hey, in our ordinance, we don't have it here, but there's a table for different zones. This is zone residential, single family. There's a height restriction, there's setback restrictions, and this is kind of a clarification of that setback restriction. They're just saying, Elena, what's the maximum height in residential zoning?
Residential single family is 35 feet height.
35
For the original structure.
for the
For
structure.
a single story.
Yeah, okay.
So
It does not say single story. It says maximum height requirement 35 feet. It doesn't clarify single story.
Doesn't
So
clarify. Okay.
this note for an unattached building is trying to clarify the height restriction for an accessory building. So it can be, if you read that, the way I read that, is that if he was 5 feet away, he might be able to be taller.
I don't see that.
Could read it that way, because he says if it's less than 20, he can get within 2.5 feet.
Right.
I think it's important for everyone here to kind of recognize that the purpose of the Board of Adjustment and Planning Commission is for them to interpret these codes. And so when they hear variances and when they hear things, it's their onus or their burden to determine whether or not, A, there's an exception allowable or interpretation that allows for such a variance, and then B, whether or not the individual qualifies for a variance. So that's what when they're speaking to you about what the code and how it's interpreted, that's their responsibility to interpret. So in terms of, and they make a recommendation to council that either, accepts or rejects that recommendation based on their interpretation of the code.
That being said, I guess we're waiting on you to determine, whether this statute applies. The code is really kind of discombobulated because you look under one thing and it says area and height exceptions. You look over here and it's talking about setbacks. And so we are literally all over the code trying to figure out what it is that he should have done. I think that he shouldn't have been granted the permit in the first place. And the only reason we're here today is because I complained. Had I not complained about it, that building would be up and finished by now, and it would be however tall he wants it to be. And you've heard all these people that's property values are going to be affected. I'm sorry that it might cost Mr. Dugas money to adjust it, but all of us are paying taxes too. And the reason why we have laws and ordinances is to help us to live together so that we all have to follow the same code and the same rules, whether we know them or not. So to me, our property rights are just as important as his. And you've heard every one of us say, and that's why I showed you the pictures. You can see in the pictures that we provided, it's much more looming over our properties than what you would see in the drawings and stuff like that. So I don't know if the city ever went back out there. I don't think they did until we complained. But nevertheless, I feel it's unfair to property owners for our property values and our sellability of our houses to be diminished because one landowner wants to have this big building there. We're on Thomas Road. I never thought I would be dealing with this. We don't have an HOA. No HOA would allow this, but there's not an HOA on Thomas Road. And so also, if you grant this, I'm going to go forward, I'm going to appeal it, and I'm going to sue him under the deed restrictions. So now I've got to spend money to get an attorney to, file on the deed restrictions when you guys can take care of it right now and say, you know what, you shouldn't have built it that tall. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to remind the commission that you're not allowed to consider outside external factors such as deed restrictions or the penalties for such. You're bound by the obligations that are before you. Just for the record.
Understood. We're strictly on the ordinance and a variance request. Momentarily, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way through everybody else that wants to speak, that spoke in opposition. I'm going to give you and your, Mr. Floyd, one more try, and then I'm going to let her come back, and then I'm going to be done. let's hear everybody else that wants to speak in opposition first and let them vent. And let's hear if they've got anything new and different that's relevant that we really need to consider. And then we'll let you work on that, okay? Thank you. All right, anybody else want to speak in opposition again? Come on back up. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I hope we answered your questions, and if we didn't, let's get it done.
Yes, it does sound like the planning and code, whatever committee is, granted it in error. And that is an issue. That's an issue that now you guys have to make a ruling on. I think it's a pretty big issue, and if you're gonna have ordinances, I think they should be followed, especially when they are not just, a little backyard shed. One thing I'd like to say is, I guess I just studied this hard enough. I showed you the picture of my backyard, my next door neighbor, his direct backyard. You saw how wide that building was and where his fence ended, my next door neighbor's fence ended. That is not accurate. That building covers at least a third, if not half, of the width of his lot. So I'm contesting the accuracy of that.
The location.
Yeah, because that's not, they turned it.
Yeah. This is the original plan, I think, or is this not the original plan?
This was the revision that was
This is
submitted
the
with that.
revision.
Okay.
So that side should be 45 feet.
It's just not to scale.
Yeah, it's just not to scale.
So it's not
On top of the
accurate.
site plan.
Yeah, that may be true.
But the measurements
Because
are.
how wide is your lot, ma'am? Just out of curiosity, do you know?
Oh, I don't know. And then my neighbor just left.
But your lot's not 100 feet wide, or is it 100 feet
Probably
wide?
not.
Probably 70 or something like that?
I would guess 60.
60 or 70, okay. And so a 45-foot wide building would cover
Yeah.
2/3 of that.
Right, so you see how inaccurate that
Yeah,
drawing
it's
is.
not. We understand.
Yeah, that's really misleading. It is 2/3 of the width of my neighbor's lot.
Right. Well, and this is a plat too, ma'am. So it doesn't necessarily mean that that's where the property lines are now.
This is strictly to view the distance from the property line. We're not looking at the,
Yeah. So there are a lot of times you look at these lots and some people have a lot plus 10 feet of the next lot. Some people have a lot minus 10 feet. And so you don't know when you see lot 6, whether it's the whole thing that's actually within fence and property line or not. But we understand what you're saying. And have no reason to doubt it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you saw the picture.
Yes,
so you
ma'am.
Right, that's grossly inaccurate.
Yes, ma'am.
Not a little off.
Yes, ma'am.
Another point I'd like to make, and all this is venting.
Go ahead.
It's, I don't know how large Mr. Dugas's lot is. It's large. And we see where the main house is. And, apparently he built a very, safe building. And, that doesn't make any of us feel any better because it is so much closer to 3 of our homes than it is his home. So if it's such a wonderful, beautiful, lovely green sheet of metal that is almost 24 feet tall across the back of my neighbor's home, I'm wondering why it wasn't closer to his house. If it's so lovely and safe and, he wants to put all of his, use it for storage. That's my ranting. So it really doesn't matter how safe and how pretty the green is. It is 2/3 the back lot, the width of my neighbor's yard, and it is almost 24 feet tall, as high as the electrical lines. It's 75 feet down the driveway of their home. I have had neighbors come up to me in my front yard that I didn't even know them. And they were asking me about, what the heck is that thing? What are they building back there? Are they going to be manufacturing something? Like, is that a manufacturing building? It's not a garage. People don't build garages to put their Christmas decorations up on the second loft and have it look like a commercial building. This is Thomas Road. He does have a huge lot. He chose to put it in the corner where they are closer to 3 homes on East Circuit than it is to his home. So the city I have an issue that the city did grant this permit. And this was not a little shed he had hauled in from Home Depot or Lowe's. It's 24 feet tall, 75 feet long, lining a driveway on Thomas. I've had people that live across the street from him on Thomas walking and stopping me and saying how they are not happy either. But you know how cities work and how attorneys work. They can't come forward. They're not happy. This is not a good thing that is being allowed to happen on Thomas Road and 3 homes, well, more than 3 homes, but directly 3 homes. So that's my ranting.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, anybody else want to speak in opposition? All right, yep, if you want to say one more thing, go ahead, but do it quickly.
I just want a question. I wanted to ask the builder what the roof is going to be.
I'll ask that for you, okay? I can almost guarantee it's going to be metal. I'll ask that question for you. All right, so here's what I want to do. I want Mr. Floyd and Mr. Dugas to take their turns in whatever order they choose. I want to hear from the city one more time and make sure that we've covered all the bases. And then unless somebody's got really something that's new and different that we hadn't heard before, I want to close down and figure out what we're going to do. And while we're discussing up here, Mr. Dugas, you have every opportunity to talk to Ms. Spots and to your other neighbors and to try to work out a resolution if you want to. So, Mr. Floyd and Mr. Dugas, let's hear from you.
I could, if we could create some camouflage, what have you, that's fine. I believe we're entitled to a variance, but if you look at my neighbor's yard, it looks like the setting for Chainsaw Massacre is nothing but weeds and things. So we kind of did want to match that. However, set that aside. If you don't choose to grant the variance, that's okay with me. I'd rather these people not be upset. If we could leave it here, that would be one thing. But if it's litigation afterwards, then what's the point? All I was trying to do is build a structure. We follow the rules. I've even been accused of manipulating things that we hadn't done, I guess because I'm a lawyer, but none of that's been done. We played by the rules, and I'm sorry it got to this, really, I am. I feel like these people are frustrated, and I'm trying to see their perspective. I want to do something that makes all of us happy. And, my thought was, if I have to spend that $56,000-$60,000 to lower it, then maybe I could have spent that money better elsewhere, doing something that they would appreciate. I would have donated it to charity for them. But under these circumstances, I'm just trying to get along and build a garage. I wasn't trying to start a controversy. And I'll tell you this, the way I got this design, my best friend over in Orange, Texas has a house that's designed after Oak Alley. It's the nicest house in Orange, Texas. His name's David Hines. It's a beautiful house, and he had in back a structure that Tate had built. I thought, wow, that's really nice. He did a good job of that. I've been trying for 5 years to get contractors out to my house. And by the way, I don't know if you guys have problems, but I have termites. And termites don't eat metal. And I fight termites all the time.
Mr. Dugas, please direct your
All right, I apologize.
It's all right, I understand.
I apologize, but I'm just trying to say, this was not a nefarious act. We're just trying to build a garage. And we have a big property. We have lots of stuff stored away from the property. And so You know, if you guys grant this variance and it causes more trouble, then I don't want that, okay? I want to get along with my neighbors. I don't know if that's possible now, but I'm trying.
Well, then the question arises, do you want to withdraw the application?
Under,
Or do you want us to make a decision? You need 4 out of 5 to win.
you know, I might have hurt myself by saying that. I think legally I'm entitled to it, but yeah, I'll withdraw it and we'll lower the building and let's see how the neighbors are about their response, okay? It's been a waste of time, in my opinion.
Well, I appreciate your point of view, and I appreciate everybody that's spoken today.
Well, you understand, I have been under attack.
Yes, sir. I've heard it, and I've heard the response. But between us, I think the more you say now, the harsher it's going to be.
Yeah, I got you.
I think it would be best, now that you've withdrawn the application, that we simply walk away, if that's agreeable with you.
It's not on the advice of my builder, but it makes it easy on you guys.
Well, we're not asking it to make it easy on us, but you know, we're willing to do whichever. Thank you. All right, we're good.
So just so we're clear for the commission, even though it was verbally withdrawn on the record, there is still a process. Mr. Dugas, you or your contractor will need to email or put into writing your verbal withdrawal so that we can, I believe the application was in Mr. Floyd's name. Mr. Floyd, you'll need to put in the withdrawal.
Okay.
And just get that to Elena prior to the meeting. And we'll just need the commission to note on the record that you're accepting the withdrawal and will not be making a vote on this item.
Somewhere in here, I have my agenda.
And we need to understand, it's still gonna be a tall wall.
We've already said that.
Okay.
I think if we say it again, it's just going to aggravate things worse. All right. So, having no more need for discussion of file PZ 2024-142, is there any other business to come before our group today? And
Just need you to note that you have no more further discussion because it's been withdrawn by the property owner following a withdrawal by the applicant in writing to planning.
which will be followed up with a written withdrawal.
Correct.
Yes, okay.
I need you to say it on the record.
We understand that.
I need you to say it on the record.
Come on, Dave, let's go.
I can't say it. I can't say it. You have to say it.
Well, we heard it directly from the applicant, and it was not his representative.
No, it was.
Applicant himself verbally withdrew.
No, I'm sorry. Mr. Floyd is the applicant. Mr. Dugas is the property owner.
Okay.
That's why you have to say it on the record. Now you're following me.
I thought Mr. Dugas and Mr. Floyd was acting on his behalf.
No, Mr. Floyd is
All
the
right,
applicant.
never
Mr.
mind.
Dugas is the property owner. So you have to say the property owner withdrew it and that
The property owner withdrew it, and Mr. Floyd has agreed to withdraw, and the property owners instructed Mr. Floyd to send a written confirmation that file PZ 2024-142 is withdrawn. Having no other need for business or comment concerning that application, is there any other business to come before our group? And hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
That's the longest. Remember when the variance passed for the sign height?